Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, and we're here. It's Tenet. Finally, the cinemas are open. Yes, this has been my most highly anticipated movie of the year, not least of which because it's directed by Christopher Nolan, who is obviously my favourite director of all time. Many of his movies sit in my top 20 movies of all time. So yeah, to be quite honest, there is a little part of me deep down within the recesses somewhere of my psyche that kind of keeps hoping that Nolan will make a stinker, that he'll make a film that I can just brag on, just so that I can, I don't know, shred the look of a Nolan fanboy, which I know I have, so that people don't think that I will just gush over anything he makes simply because it's got his name on it. Tenet is not that film. So yes, the lower recesses of my psyche are going to have to keep on waiting in that regard. Tenet is brilliant. It is fantastic. I've just got out of it. It was a very long film, but I did not feel that running time at all, must be said. The story, let's get into the story first, because if, like me, you saw the trailers, you probably came away from the trailers still not knowing what on earth the film was actually about. So let me try and give enough for you to get the gist without spoiling, the whole film. It's laid out pretty early on in the film, so I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. If you want to go in completely fresh, like not even a hint as to what's going on, then feel free to, move along, go and check out the film before you watch the rest of this review. I am going to try and keep it spoiler free, but like I say, so that you have an inkling as to what the story is actually about, here goes. So we have this main character played by John David Washington, who is a CIA man, and he kind of gets recruited after a particular operation, after a particular job. He gets recruited by this government organisation that are trying to stop someone in the future who has designs on essentially wiping us all out with this time inversion thing. So what they're able to do is they are able to take objects in the future and invert them. It's called inverting them. And what happens when they invert them is that those objects or people begin to move backwards in time. So technically, you could have yourself from the future be inverted, start heading backwards in time, and your past self might come, meet them in the middle, and then yeah, what happens then? So because of that, given various time paradoxes and scientific jargon that goes completely over my head, and I'm sure will with most people, it means the end of the world. It means the end of everything. I don't exactly know why, but that's not important, and that's a key kind of significant aspect of this film. There is a moment in this film when Washington's character is being informed by this scientist what's going on, what he's getting involved in, and she does actually say to him, it's best not to concern yourself too much with the finer details because it'll just send you insane. And that is literally Nolan telling the audience, look, go along for the ride, follow the characters, as long as you understand their motivations, as long as you understand the drive of their characters, go along for the ride, go on the journey that they're going on, invest in them, and you will be rewarded with it. If you sit there trying to unravel all the mystery, all the intricacies of time travel, would that happen, would that not happen, is that realistic, is that not realistic, you will come out of this movie not enjoying it. I guarantee it. You'll tie your brain in knots and you won't be invested in what is going on. Now, I do think that Nolan, more than ever before, bearing in mind this is the guy who made The Prestige, this is the guy who made Inception, I think even more than those films, he asks you to keep up. And there are stretches in this film where I'm like, oh no, I stepped out in my mind just a little bit too long. Am I still understanding what's going on? Thankfully I did. I managed to keep up. I do think this is a film that's going to be rewarded on a second viewing or multiple viewings. But the important thing for me was, and I say this a lot with many movies, is the emotional journey of the characters. That is what is important. What are these people about? What is their agenda? What are they trying to achieve? And how do they go about it? All the time travel stuff, all the science and jargon, it's not really important as long as I can follow the emotional journey of the characters. And in that regard, Nolan does an excellent job here. Now, I've not read any reviews before going in to see this or watched any, but I have heard, I've seen snippets of things online where people are saying, oh, critics are saying this or critics are saying that. All I can say is, as with anything, go and watch it yourself. Make your own mind up. But I've heard a lot of talk about how this is all about ideas, it's a brain film, and there's no heart to it. People came out feeling unemotionally invested and things like that. All I can say to that is, I was watching a completely different film, to be quite honest. Now, I love Inception. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. It's in my top 20. But that is a film where actually the character played by Marion Cotillard, I didn't feel that kind of emotional connection to her in the way that I wished I'd had. But there's so much greatness in that film that it didn't really bother me that much. It didn't stop me from giving it a 5 out of 5. But the main female character in this film, played by Elizabeth Debicki, I think is very much the emotional centre of it. So she is embroiled in this whole thing. She's kind of a bystander in many ways. But this whole plot, this whole kind of operation that Washington's character is involved in kind of crosses her path because the man that she is with has a huge part to play in this whole time travel thing that is going on. And he's a bit of a monster. He's played by Kenneth Branagh, brilliantly so as well, I must say. Really great villain. But for her, it's a very human drama that is really all about her getting out of a toxic relationship and taking her son with her. Something that she cannot do at this stage because her tyrant of a husband has got a real stranglehold over her. So yeah, it's you see parts in this film where once the stakes are laid out and you realise, wow, the whole world is at stake, there are moments where she says stuff about her son. She turns it all back to her son. The world's going to end. Well, that means my son's going to die. It's like, and you kind of look at, you'd be thinking, bigger picture here, hey. But that's the truth of her character. That's who she is. Everything in her life is out of control. Even the access she gets to her son is out of control. The only truth in her mind is the love she has for him and the hope, the vain hope that one day she will be free to leave her husband and take her son with her. So everything else is inconsequential to her. So yeah, I like that the characters are really well drawn like that. I think that, as I say, her journey is the emotional kind of heart of the film. And I think that the way that Washington's character responds to her, kind of changes the way he does things as a result of her and how it will affect her, again adds heart, adds an emotional kind of centre to it all that is, I think not noticed by a lot of people who get hung up on, as I say, the intellectual stuff, the complicated minutiae of science and trickery that Nolan pulls with time and has done time and time again. I think it's a really great film. Like I say, I wouldn't say I got everything throughout. It's definitely his most complex piece of work to date. It certainly asks you to keep up. But because of that emotional journey for the characters being the through line, being the main thing that really you should be focusing on, then I was heavily invested. I think all the trickery that you get with a Christopher Nolan film with regards to the narrative, if the character stuff isn't there, then that's all it is. It's just narrative trickery. And I don't think that that is the case here with this film. I think Debicki gives a really great performance, must be said. And like I say, also Kenneth Branagh, as I've already pointed out, is a really great villain in it. But I also really love Robert Pattinson's character. I think he's fantastic. So he's a man that Washington recruits to help him out. But then as the film goes on, there's more to this guy than meets the eye. He may know more than he's letting on. Just how much of that is, is to be revealed. Is he really a good guy? Is he a villain? Whatever. There's doubts here and there for Washington's character with regards to this guy. There are a couple of moments that happen where I did kind of see the twist coming, but that didn't bother me because again, it's about that emotional journey. It's about, what does it mean for these characters to experience that stuff? Otherwise a film like this would never really hold up to a repeat viewing, because once you know the tricks, once you know the twists, then it doesn't matter. But because of that emotional investment, I know that actually this is a journey I'm going to want to go on again. But Pattinson's character is really great, and I think the ethos of his character is really that whatever happens. That's something he kind of says, is that because this being a time travel movie, you do get all those questions mostly asked by Washington's character. The obvious questions that one would ask if they were caught up in such an adventure about how, well, actually, if we're seeing things now, is that people have done when they've gone back in time, is that not in and of itself affecting how things are going to happen? The typical kind of, which came first, chicken or the egg kind of questions that you get with time travel. And Pattinson's character is very much a man who, call it fate, if you will. I'm not overly keen on that word, fate, destiny, whatever, the will of God. This is a guy who very much believes that whatever happens or has happened will happen. You can't change that. And it raises this question, kind of like the question people ask when they talk about, well, if God knows what you're going to do, before you even do it, then what's the point on kind of saying that you have free will? What's the point on choosing? Because whatever you do, well, you were going to do it anyway, weren't you? And I think what this character does is embody this ethos of, well, actually, you still have a choice to embrace that destiny and go along with it and take it to where it's going to lead you, or rail against it, spend the rest of your life railing against it and bemoaning the fact that you have no control. I think it gives some really interesting kind of answers, so to speak, a really interesting look on free will. Again, like I say, the nature of choice and destiny and fate, whatever you want to call it, if those are the words you want to use. There's some really great moments of humour dispersed throughout as well, mostly from Washington's character. This is a guy who's very dry, so he can go into a situation knowing full well that he's in a lot of danger, and he'll just come out with the driest quip possible, even though he knows fully well it's going to antagonise someone. But he's confident in his abilities, and also, I guess he figures that if either way he's going to get hurt, so why not? Why not throw out a few quips while you do it? But it definitely has a Bond flavour. This is something that's been said about Nolan before. He was very big on Her Majesty's Secret Service. You could see a lot of that in Inception. I think this is the film of his that bears the closest hallmarks to Inception. It very much has that kind of heist movie vibe mixed with like a thriller kind of thing going on. You mix them all together. It's very much like a Bond escapade. It's just a lot more complicated and a lot more kind of plot driven. Some of the set pieces are just out of this world as well. Spectacular stuff. The plane crash sequence, which has been in the trailers and been talked about a lot before the film's release, how they crashed this real plane. As with Nolan's previous movies, he likes to do everything as physical as possible, practical as possible, without CGI. And it just, yeah, brings you into the reality of the situation. How he's managed to film some of these scenes, I have no idea. There are some sequences in here where you get someone who is moving forward in time, who meets someone who is moving backwards in time. And they get involved in a scuffle. They get involved in a fight. So someone is fighting backwards, and their backwards moves are kind of deflecting this person's forward moves, and then that person's forward moves are counteracting this person's backwards moves. And you're just like, how do you even conceive something like this visually? How do you, one, how do you think it up? But two, how do you carry that out? How do you get someone in a fight scene who's clearly fighting someone else backwards while that person is fighting them forwards? It is absolutely astounding. I think the fact that you don't question that for most of the time when you're seeing it is really a testament to Nolan's skill as a director, and also his artistic brain, the way he conceives things. It's just, it's staggering to me the way he comes up with these ideas and executes them. As I say, how they film that, no idea. Really looking forward to the Blu-ray when it's released so we can check out some special features and see just how they did it. But either way, it is to be applauded. It is spectacular. The score here by Ludwig Göransson as well is absolutely incredible. Loved it. Although he is channeling Hans Zimmer, it must be said. This is like the best Hans Zimmer score that Hans Zimmer never made. This is Nolan's third film now as well, with director of photography Hoyt van Hoytema, one of my top two cinematographers, along with Roger Deakins. The two of those guys, absolutely love the work they do. No different here. There are certain visual elements that happen in here that kind of harken back to the cinematography that Wally Pfister did for Nolan, and that's where you can kind of start to see the input of Nolan there. So, like, the two different cinematographers might light it differently, whatever, but you can tell that, this is the shot that Nolan has asked for. This is Nolan in command of the camera, despite the fact that he has a director of photography who is sorting stuff out. There are certain ways that things are shot that, you can match up certain shots to, say, something that Wally Pfister did in, like, the Dark Knight trilogy, and they would almost kind of match up as if they were by the same cinematographer. And I don't say that to discredit either one of those cinematographers at all, because without their expertise, Nolan wouldn't be able to get these shots. But clearly Nolan has a way of communicating what it is he wants, and both of these cinematographers are skilled enough to get it. I think a lot of people will argue that this is a very exposition-heavy film, but I never felt it. This is the thing. Because it was moving constantly, it's like the pace of this film is so fast. You're just constantly being given information, which I know will put people off. Few people walked out of the screening that I was in. I think clearly they just, it was gone and that was it. They were out, and I could sense that in the audience. As I was going, and I was struggling to keep up sometimes. I'm like, this is going to lose some people. This is going to lose some people. And lo and behold, some people got up and walked out. So, whatever. That's neither here nor there. But as I say, because of that fast pace, because it's just constantly moving and you're constantly being asked to keep up, I don't feel that exposition. I'm aware of it after having come out of the film and looking back and thinking, they had to explain a lot there, didn't they? But it was necessary. It never felt like telling instead of showing. They say the first rule of writing a movie is show, don't tell. It never felt like that. So, the exposition was always going on within the action. Characters were talking to each other as they are doing stuff, as they are moving through the plot. So, it didn't bother me. It's certainly not a criticism for me. I think, like I say, if you can do exposition like this, where it's the kind that, you're asking the audience to keep up with you rather than going, hey, I'm going to just spoon this out to you so you can keep up really slowly. Yeah, it's not that kind of exposition at all. So yeah, cracking stuff. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5, which will probably come as no surprise to most people who know me and my channel. I can't remember the last Nolan film that I didn't give a 5 out of 5, to be honest. Like I say, I know I'll get a lot of Nolan fanboy kind of criticism, but I honestly just I'm just honest about what I see in his films, and for whatever reason, he makes films I want to see. I will be ranking Nolan's movies once I've seen this film again. I do want to see it again to get it kind of cemented and clear cut in my mind before I do that ranking. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Tenet if you've already seen it, and when you see it, if you see it after this review. Yeah, did it lose you, or did you manage to keep up? Let me know down below. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.